The clock struck midnight on my 28th birthday, and my phone buzzed like a grenade in the silence of my cramped Brooklyn apartment, shattering the haze of cheap whiskey and half-eaten takeout pizza. I fumbled for it, bleary-eyed from another solo Netflix binge, expecting the usual flood of happy birthday emojis from distant cousins or that one ex who still hadn't blocked me. But the name on the screen hit like a sucker punch. Liam Hargrove. Happy birthday, Danny. Still hate me? My stomach twisted into knots sharper than the ones he tied me up in during sophomore year, back when faggot was his favorite weapon and my locker was his personal bulletin board for humiliation. Liam, the golden boy quarterback with the easy smile that had venom. The guy who'd pinned me against the cold tile of the high school bathroom and whispered threats that echoed in my nightmares for a decade. I'd fled that small Ohio town the second I could, trading cornfields for the concrete jungle of New York, building a life as a freelance copywriter where no one knew my scars. And now this, a ghost from the grave, sliding into my DMs like we were old frat buddies. I stared at the words until they blurred, my thumb hovering over the block button. Why now? Why me? The whiskey burned in my throat as I swallowed hard, the city's distant sirens mocking my isolation. Part of me wanted to smash the phone, to erase him like I tried to erase the bruises, physical and otherwise. But another part, the masochistic writer in me who thrived on plot twists, typed back before I could stop myself. What makes you think I ever stopped? His reply came faster than a heartbeat. Fair. Coffee tomorrow? Neutral ground. I owe you that much. Oh me? The audacity ignited something feral in my chest. A cocktail of rage and curiosity that had me agreeing before dawn broke over the East River. Neutral ground turned out to be a hole-in-the-wall cafe in Williamsburg, the kind with exposed brick and overpriced lattes that screamed, trying too hard to be authentic. I arrived early, nursing a black coffee that tasted like regret, scanning the door like a paranoid spy in one of my unpublished manuscripts. When he walked in, 10 minutes late, the air sucked out of the room. Liam Hargrove, all grown up and carved from the same arrogant marble as before, but polished now. Tailored blazer over a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to show forearms roped with muscle from whatever CrossFit hell he frequented. His blonde hair was shorter, styled just messy enough to look effortless. And those blue eyes, the ones that used to pierce like ice picks, now softened with something I couldn't name. Regret, or just another performance. Danny, he said, voice low and rough like gravel under tires, sliding into the seat across from me without asking. Up close, he smelled like cedar and expensive cologne, a far cry from the Axe body spray of our teen years. You look good, different. I snorted, gripping my mug like a lifeline. It's Daniel now, and yeah, therapy and a decent barber will do that. What the hell are you doing here, Liam? Last I checked, you were too busy making my life a living nightmare to bother with birthdays. He winced, actually winced, running a hand through his hair in a gesture that might have been endearing if it wasn't him. I know. God, I know. I've spent years trying to outrun that kid I was. The anger, the fear, my old man's Bible-thumping rants about sin, the locker room bullshit from the team. I took it out on you because you were easy, visible. I'm not excusing it, Daniel. I'm owning it. I saw your profile pop up in a mutual friend's feed last week. The birthday reminder hit me like a freight train. Mutual friend? The words landed like shrapnel. We'd had none back then. He'd made sure of it. I leaned back, arms crossed, the cafe's indie folk playlist crooning some heartbreak ballad that felt too on the nose. Owning it over coffee? That's rich. You think a latte erases the slurs? The way you and your cronies cornered me after prom, laughing while I bled on the pavement, his jaw tightened, knuckles whitening around his own cup. No, but it's a start. I moved to the city 2 years ago, finance guy now, Wall Street drone. Traded pigskin for spreadsheets. And I've been in therapy longer than I care to admit. Coming out was messy. My family disowned me after I told them at 25. Dated a guy for a year who turned out to be a cheating prick. Life's kicked me around, Daniel. Maybe that's karma. Coming out. The revelation hung there, heavier than the steam rising from our drinks. Liam Hargrove, the straight-A homophobe poster child, was gay? The irony twisted like a knife, and I hated how it softened the edges of my fury, how it made me see the cracks in his armor, the faint lines around his eyes, the way his shoulders slumped just a fraction. Karma, I echoed, voice flat. Must be why you're here, stirring up old ghosts on my birthday. He met my gaze, unflinching. Partly, and partly because I never stopped thinking about you. Not in a creepy way, Jesus, that sounds wrong. But you were the first person who ever stood up to me, even after everything. That fire in your eyes? Still there. I wanted to see if you'd let me try to make it right. The conversation stretched, awkward at first, then tentative, like two strangers fumbling for common ground on a fault line. He asked about my writing. Turns out he'd read one of my articles in a queer lit mag. Stumbled on it during a late-night scroll. I deflected with sarcasm, but inside, something stirred. A dangerous warmth I'd buried under layers of distrust. We talked New York winters, the best dive bars in the village, the absurdity of adulting when your inner teen still screamed in protest. By the time we parted ways on the sidewalk, the autumn sun slanting gold across the brownstones, he'd extracted my number with a promise of no pressure, just a beer sometime. I walked home in a daze, the city's pulse syncing with my own erratic rhythm. That night, as I crashed onto my futon amid stacks of dog-eared novels, sleep came heavy and unbidden. And in the dream, it was him, Liam, not the bully, but a shadow version with hands gentle as rain, pulling me close in the dim glow of a high school gym after hours. His lips brushed mine, tentative, electric, tasting of apology and unspoken want. I woke gasping, sheets tangled, heart hammering like I'd run a marathon. Just a dream, I told myself, scrubbing a hand over my face. But the ghost of that kiss lingered, sweet and insistent, burrowing under my skin. The days blurred into a reluctant routine. Work deadlines loomed, pitching ad copy for some soulless energy drink that promised unleash your inner beast. But my focus splintered, yanked back to that cafe encounter like a bad plot hook. Liam texted sporadically. A meme about Wall Street burnout, a photo of his rescue mutt named Gus looking adorably dopey in a knit sweater. Harmless stuff, the kind that chipped away at my defenses. I replied in kind, short and snarky. But each ping sent a thrill through me I couldn't deny. A week later, he called. Beer. His voice crackled through the line, casual as if we hadn't spent years as oil and water. I said yes, because apparently self-sabotage was my love language. We met at a dimly lit pub in the East Village. All sticky floors and craft IPAs with names like Hopocalypse now. The place thrummed with after-work chatter, a mix of hipsters nursing whiskeys and couples leaning too close over candlelit tables. He was already there, nursing a pint, and slid a second one my way as I approached. To birthdays and bad decisions, he toasted, clinking glasses with a grin that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Up close in the low light, he looked vulnerable. The blazer swapped for a faded band tee that hugged his chest in ways that made my throat dry. We talked for hours, about the exes who'd ghosted us, the families we'd outrun, the quiet terror of coming out in a world that still whispered freak behind closed doors. He confessed the guilt that gnawed at him, how he tracked down our old guidance counselor last year to apologize for the hell we'd both endured under her blind eye. You're braver than me, Daniel, he said softly, gaze dropping to the condensation on his glass. You always were. The words unlocked something, a floodgate I'd nailed shut. I told him about the panic attacks that still hit on anniversaries of that prom night, the way I dated men who reminded me of him, tall, blonde, brooding, just to rewrite the ending. He listened without interrupting, his hand brushing mine once, accidental, sending sparks up my arm. When we stepped out into the crisp night air, the city alive with taxi horns and distant laughter, he turned to me, breath visible in the chill. Can I? He didn't finish, but his eyes asked the question his voice couldn't. I nodded, pulse roaring in my ears, and he leaned in slow, giving me every out. His lips met mine, soft and searching, tasting of hops and hesitation. It wasn't the dream. It was better, real and raw. his hand cupping my jaw like I was something fragile, precious. The world narrowed to that point of contact, years of poison transmuting into something achingly sweet. We broke apart, foreheads touching, both breathing hard. "Sorry," he murmured, but his thumb traced my cheek, contradicting the word. "Don't be," I whispered back, the lie of my walls crumbling. That kiss became the axis my world spun on. We fell into a rhythm. Dinners at hole-in-the-wall Italian joints where we shared plates of carbonara and stories of near misses. Lazy Sundays walking Gus in Prospect Park. His arm slung casual around my shoulders like it belonged there. Liam was a revelation. Thoughtful in ways I hadn't imagined, quoting Whitman over morning coffee. His laugh a rumble that vibrated through my chest when we tangled in his Soho loft, bodies mapping forgiveness in the dark. Sex with him was fire and water. Urgent, then tender, his whispers of "you're safe" erasing echoes of old taunts. But shadows lingered. Late nights, when he'd pull away mid-embrace, eyes distant, I'd catch him staring at his phone like it held state secrets. "Work stress," he'd say, deflecting with a kiss. I let it slide, too drunk on the romance to question the cracks. New York winters crept in, frosting the windows of my apartment as we built this fragile thing between us. Holiday lights twinkled along Fifth Avenue, and for the first time, I let myself dream of more of him, of us, of a future where old enemies became lovers without the asterisk of "but." Yet doubt whispered in the quiet hours. Was this redemption or just another layer of his game? The birthday message that started it all felt like a prophecy now, pulling me under even as it promised to drown me. Snow dusted the streets like powdered sugar on a stale donut as Christmas approached, turning Manhattan into a glittering postcard that mocked my growing unease. Liam and I had settled into something that felt dangerously like a relationship. Stolen weekends at his place, where we'd cook disastrous attempts at gumbo inspired by his Louisiana roots, laughing through the smoke alarms. Quiet evenings curled on my lumpy couch, binging old rom-coms while he traced lazy patterns on my thigh. "You're my plot twist," he'd murmur into my hair, voice husky with sleep, and I'd melt, forgetting the what-ifs that clawed at the edges of my mind. But the whispers started small, insidious as the first flakes of a blizzard. A text from a mutual acquaintance, Jake, from that queer writers group I joined last spring. Popping up uninvited. "Heard you're seeing Liam Hargrove? Careful, dude. Guy's got a rep for bailing when shit gets real." I deleted it, chalking it up to small-town gossip that had followed us east. Liam wasn't like that. He'd opened up about his ex, Marcus, the Wall Street shark who cheated with a junior analyst, leaving Liam gutted and guarded. "I won't do that to you," he'd vowed one night, our legs entwined under the covers, his blue eyes fierce in the moonlight slanting through the blinds. "You're it for me, Daniel. The one I didn't know I was waiting for." I believed him because I wanted to, because his touch rewrote my history, turning pain into poetry. We rang in the new year at a rooftop party in Chelsea, the skyline exploding in fireworks that mirrored the sparks between us. He pulled me into a shadowed corner, kissing me deep and desperate as Auld Lang Syne faded into the cheers. "To us," he toasted with stolen champagne, and in that moment, with his hand warm on the small of my back, I let myself imagine forever. January brought the cold snap, the kind that seeps into your bones and makes you crave human heat. Work piled up, revisions for a book cover blurb that dragged on like a bad blind date, and Liam's hours stretched longer, his client dinners leaving lipstick-free collars but cologne-tinged excuses. One Thursday, I surprised him at his office building on Broad Street, a towering glass monolith that screamed old money and new regrets. The lobby was a marble cathedral of finance bros and power ties, and I felt underdressed in my thrift store peacoat, clutching a paper bag of beignets from that Cajun spot he loved. The receptionist, a sharp-eyed woman with a headset mic, eyed me like I was a delivery boy. "Hargrove? Floor 42. But he's in a meeting. Might be a while." I waited in the plush lounge, flipping through a dog-eared copy of The Economist, the articles blurring as nerves gnawed at me. What if this was too much? Too needy? An hour ticked by, then two, my phone silent. Finally, around 7, He emerged from the elevators, jacket slung over his arm, tie loosened like a noose half undone. Daniel! Surprise flickered across his face, chased by something warmer. Guilt? Pleasure? He crossed the lobby in long strides, pulling me into a hug that smelled of boardrooms and betrayal. What are you doing here? God, you look freezing. Thought you could use a sugar rush, I said, thrusting the bag at him with a grin I hoped hid the awkwardness. Heard meetings turn you into a zombie. He laughed, that low rumble I craved, but his eyes darted to the clock behind the desk. You're a lifesaver. Walk with me? I need to blow off steam. We stepped into the biting wind, the bag crinkling between us as he devoured a beignet, powdered sugar dusting his lips like innocent snow. He talked animatedly about the deal closing, a merger that could make or break his quarter, but I caught the strain in his voice, the way his free hand clenched and unclenched. Halfway to the subway, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, face tightening, and silenced it without a word. Everything okay? I asked, casual as I could manage. Yeah, just family drama. Dad's on one of his crusades again. He waved it off, but the shadow lingered, darkening his eyes. We parted at the station with a quick kiss, his promise of dinner tomorrow, my treat hanging in the air like fog. That night, alone in my apartment with the radiator clanking like a death rattle, the dream came again. Fiercer this time, Liam's mouth on mine, but twisted, his hands pinning me not in passion but possession, whispers of mine morphing into the old slurs. I jolted awake, sweat slick and shaking, the city lights mocking me through the frost-laced window. Was this love, or just the echo of trauma dressed in cologne? The doubts snowballed. Jake's text resurfaced in my mind, and curiosity, that writer's curse, drove me to scroll through Liam's sparse socials. Nothing damning, gym selfies, Gus's antics, a repost of some queer rights rally. But then, buried in tagged photos from a holiday work party, there he was, arm around a guy I didn't recognize, both laughing over champagne flutes, the caption "Team wins, Hargrove hustle." The date, 2 weeks ago, the night he'd canceled our plans with a vague emergency at the office. My chest tightened, a vice of paranoia. It was nothing, I told myself, colleagues, bros being brothers. But the seed was planted, watered by every late text, every evasive glance. I confronted him gently over Thai takeout the next night, curled on his leather couch with the TV murmuring in the background. Saw that photo from the party. Who's the arm candy? He paused mid-bite, pad Thai forgotten. Evan? From accounting. Harmless flirt. Guy straight as an arrow, married with kids. Why? His tone was light, but his eyes searched mine, probing. Just checking. You've been distant. I shrugged, hating how small I sounded. He set the container down, shifting to face me fully, his hand finding mine. Hey, I'm here, aren't I? This us, it's the best thing I've got going. Trust me, Daniel. I've got baggage, but none of it's you. I wanted to believe him, leaned into the kiss he offered, letting his body erase the questions. But as we moved to the bedroom, clothes shedding like old skin, a part of me held back, watching from the shadows. February thawed the streets into slushy rivers, mirroring the mess in my head. Valentine's Day loomed, and Liam planned a surprise. A weekend getaway to a cabin in the Catskills. Just us, no signals, no bullshit. I packed with a mix of excitement and dread. The drive up stayed a blur of highways and his classic rock playlist, Bruce Springsteen belting about Born to Run Hearts. The cabin was rustic charm. Stone fireplace crackling, a king bed piled with flannel blankets, the woods outside whispering secrets under a canopy of bare branches. We arrived at dusk, the sky bruising purple, and he wasted no time, uncorking wine, drawing me into a slow dance in the living room to some old jazz crooner on the radio. Happy Valentine's, love, he said, the endearment slipping out like it was always meant to be ours. Dinner was simple. Steak on the grill, potatoes roasted over the fire, and we talked dreams. Mine of finishing that novel gathering dust on my hard drive, his of ditching finance for something real, maybe coaching queer youth sports leagues. Later, in bed with the fire's glow painting our skin gold. He made love to me like a man atoning, slow, deliberate, his mouth mapping every inch as if committing me to memory. I love you, he breathed against my neck, the words a thunderclap in the quiet. I froze, then melted, whispering it back because it was true. God help me. In his arms, the world made sense. The past a faded photograph, the future a blank page we could write together. But dawn brought the call. His phone shattered the birdsong, vibrating insistently on the nightstand. He groaned, reaching for it blindly, but I saw the name before he silenced it. Marcus. The ex, ignore it, I muttered, pulling him close, but the damage was done. He kissed my temple, murmuring sorry. And we dozed off again, but the seed sprouted thorns. Back in the city, the idol cracked. More calls, more work emergencies. I threw myself into writing, pounding out chapters fueled by the high of our getaway. But paranoia shadowed every keystroke. One rainy afternoon, nursing a coffee in a midtown cafe, I caved and texted Jake, "What's the tea on Liam?" His reply was a gut punch. "Dude, heard he's still tangled with Marcus. Not over, apparently. Watch your back." I confronted Liam that night in his loft, rain lashing the floor-to-ceiling windows like accusations. "Is it true? You and Marcus?" He looked wrecked, standing in the kitchen with a half-empty scotch in hand. "It's not what you think. He's reaching out because, shit, Daniel, he's sick. Cancer. Stage 4. Wants to make amends before." His voice broke, and he sank onto a bar stool, head in hands. The fight drained out of me, replaced by a hollow ache. I crossed to him, pulling him into my arms as sobs racked his frame. "Why didn't you tell me? Scared you'd think I was using you, or that it'd drag you down." He clung to me, raw and ruined. "I love you. This is real." We held each other through the storm, forgiveness a fragile bridge. But as March bloomed with tentative crocuses, I wondered if love could weather the tempests ahead, or if it would shatter us both. Spring unfurled in New York like a hesitant apology. Cherry blossoms tentative along the FDR Drive, the air thick with promise and exhaust. Liam and I navigated the Marcus minefield with careful steps. Hospital visits where I'd wait in sterile lobbies, thumbing through outdated magazines while Liam emerged hollow-eyed, his hand finding mine in silent gratitude. "He's fighting," Liam would say on the drives home, voice strained over the hum of traffic. "Chemo's kicking his ass, but he's fighting." I nodded, squeezing his fingers, burying my jealousy under layers of compassion. Love, I told myself, meant sharing the load even when it bruised. But fractures spiderwebbed beneath the surface. My novel surged forward, chapters spilling out in caffeine-fueled bursts. A queer coming-of-age tale laced with redemption arcs that mirrored our own too closely. My agent, a no-nonsense dyke named Rita with a Brooklyn accent sharp as broken glass, called it, "Your breakout? Kid? Raw? Real. Gonna gut-punch readers." Validation tasted sweet, but Liam's absences soured it. Nights alone in my apartment, I'd pace the creaky floors, Gus's whine from the next room an echo of my loneliness. When Liam did show, he'd collapse into bed, exhaustion carving hollows under his eyes. Our intimacy reduced to hurried touches and whispered misuse. The breaking point came in late April, under a sky bruised with thunderheads. I'd wrapped a draft of the manuscript, high on completion, and planned a low-key celebration. Rooftop picnic with craft beers and the skyline as our backdrop. He was late, again, texting apologies about a last-minute client thing. By the time he arrived, wind whipping his hair into chaos, the charcuterie board I'd splurged on sat wilted, cheese sweating in the humidity. "Sorry, babe," he panted, dropping a kiss on my cheek before collapsing onto the blanket. Deal went sideways. Evan's team botched the projections. Evan, the name from the photo innocuous then, but now it snagged like a burr. We ate in fits and starts, conversation stilted around the weather and my book buzz. As dusk deepened, painting the city in electric purples, I couldn't hold it in. Liam talked to me. "Really, it's slipping." He set his beer down, brow furrowing. What? No, we're good. Just swamped. Swamped with what? Marcus? Work? Or something else? The words tumbled out, laced with the bitterness I'd swallowed for weeks. His face shuddered, that Wall Street mask sliding into place. Daniel, not now. Please. Now's exactly when. I pressed, voice rising with the wind. I see you pulling away. The calls, the secrets. It's killing me. He stood abruptly, pacing the rooftop's edge, city lights reflecting in his eyes like distant fires. It's not secrets. Complicated. Marcus asked me to help with his estate planning. Power of attorney shit. Feels wrong saying no when he's dying. And me? Where do I fit in the complications? Hurt sharpened my tone, a blade I'd honed in silence. He whirled, frustration cracking his composure. You think this is easy? Loving you while my past is rotting in a hospital bed, begging for scraps of forgiveness? I hate him, Daniel, for what he did to me, to us indirectly. But I can't just cut him out. Not like this. The us landed like a lifeline, but too late. Rain began to patter, fat drops smearing the horizon. Then let me in, I pleaded, standing to close the distance. Don't shut me out. He reached for me, but his phone buzzed, insistent, vibrating in his pocket like an alarm. He fished it out, glanced, and his color drained. Shit, it's the hospital. I gotta go, I said, the word a wall slamming down. Always go. He hesitated, rain streaking his face like tears. Come with me. I shook my head, throat tight. Not tonight. Fix this, Liam, or we're done. He left, the rooftop door clanging shut behind him, and I stood there as the storm unleashed, sheets of water soaking through my shirt, mingling with the hot sting of tears. Back in my apartment, dripping and defeated, I poured a tumbler of bourbon and opened my laptop, the cursor blinking like an accusation. Words poured out, not the polished prose of my novel, but a jagged email to Rita. Need a break. Personal stuff. Then, numb, I texted Jake. Drinks? Need to unload. The bar was a dive in Hell's Kitchen, all neon buzz and sticky counters, the kind where secrets spilled easier than shots. Jake arrived fashionably late, all hipster chic in skinny jeans and an ironic graphic tee, sliding onto the stool with a knowing grin. Spill, birthday boy. Hargrove drama. Over whiskeys that burned going down, I unloaded, the birthday spark, the kisses that promised eternity, the Marcus shadow eclipsing our light. Jake listened, nodding sagely, his own ex-wars etched in the lines around his mouth. Look, Daniel, Liam's hot, objectively. But guys like him, bullies turned lovers, is a trope for a reason. They rewrite their sins on your skin, but the ink fades. His words echoed as we stumbled out into the neon night, hailing cabs with slurred goodbyes. Home alone, the dreams twisted vicious. Liam's kiss morphing into Marcus's shadow, hands that caressed turning to fists, his laughter a slur in the dark. I woke with a start, chest heaving, the sheets a prison. Days blurred into a haze of avoidance. Liam's texts piled up. Miss you. Talk. But I left them unread, burying myself in revisions, coffee runs, dog-sitting gusts to fill the void. He showed at my door one rainy Tuesday, soaked to the bone, eyes red-rimmed. Daniel, please. Marcus. He passed this morning. The news hollowed me out. I pulled him inside. No questions. Just arms around his shaking frame as grief poured from him in waves. We didn't make love that night. We just held on. Two broken halves in the dim lamplight, the city murmuring condolences outside. Funeral arrangements consumed him. Scattered ashes in the Hudson at Marcus's wish, a small service with colleagues in crisp suits. I went, standing at the back in my best button-down, the chapel's stained glass casting fractured rainbows on the mourners. Liam spoke, voice steady but laced with pain. Marcus taught me what love could be, and what it shouldn't. Rest easy, man. His eyes found mine across the pews, a silent plea. Afterward, at a wake in some midtown lounge, I cornered him by the bar. I'm sorry. For pushing. He shook his head, fingers brushing mine. No, you were right. I shut you out because facing him meant facing me. The kid who hurt you. But losing him? Clarified shit. I don't want to lose you too. We talked for hours after the crowd thinned. Real talk, the kind that scoured wounds clean. He admitted the power of attorney had blurred lines. Old feelings resurfacing not as love but obligation. Guilt. You're my future, he said, hand over heart. If you'll have me. I did. Spring deepened and so did we. Therapy sessions together, unpacking the baggage we dragged from Ohio. Weekends at Coney Island, cotton candy melting on our tongues as we rode the cyclone, screaming into the wind. My novel sold in a quiet auction, the advance enough for a deposit on a one-bedroom in Astoria. And Liam was there, painting walls eggshell with me, Gus underfoot in chaos. But summer simmered with undercurrents. A work trip to Chicago pulled him away for a week, and in the quiet, doubts resurfaced. Whispers from Jake. A flirty DM from some finance bro on my Insta that Liam spotted and laughed off. Jealous? He teased, nipping at my ear. Good. Means you care. Yet care curdled into suspicion when I found the letter. Tucked in his briefcase. Overlooked during a laundry purge. Handwritten. From Marcus. Dated months before his death. Liam. If you're reading this, I'm gone. Forgive me for the mess I made of us. But don't let it stop you from loving again. That writer you mentioned? Hold on tight. P.S. The cabin key's yours. Our spot. Our spot. The Catskills cabin, Valentine's idol. The words blurred as betrayal bloomed, hot and vicious. Had it all been a stage? A rebound scripted in dying ink? I confronted him that night, letter trembling in my fist as he walked through the door. Ty Askew from a long day. What the fuck is this? His face crumpled, recognition dawning. Daniel, wait. No, our spot? You took me there, said you loved me and it was his? Some romantic echo? It wasn't like that. He stepped forward, hands raised. Marcus and I went once, years ago. He left it to me in the will, a clean break, not a haunting. I swear that weekend was yours. Ours. Lies. I spat, the old hurt surging. You're still playing games, Liam. The birthday message, the redemption. Was it all to assuage your guilt? Fuck me and feel better about the bully you were. He recoiled as if slapped. That's not fair. I've changed. Have you? The dam broke, years of poison flooding out. You remembered my birthday because it was the anniversary of that prom fight, right? The one where you broke my nose? Some twisted atone by date bullshit. Silence stretched, thunderous. His eyes glistened, voice barely a whisper. Yeah, it was. But that doesn't make us fake. I laughed, bitter as ash. It makes everything tainted. I grabbed my keys, storming into the humid night, the door slamming like a guillotine. The weeks that followed were a freefall. I crashed at Jake's, subletting my place sight unseen, drowning revisions in all-nighters while Liam's voicemails piled up. Please, poems, promises. Come home. Let's fix this. But home felt like a mirage now, the dreams turning nightmarish. His kiss a Judas bite, leaving me marked and alone. Summer peaked in a heat wave, the city a steam bath of regret. My book launch loomed in July, invite sent before the fracture, and there he was on the list, Liam Hargrove +1. I debated uninviting, but masochism won. Let him see what he'd lost. The night arrived sweltering. The indie bookstore in the village packed with queer-lit lovers. Rainbow flags fluttering from the rafters. I read from the stage, voice steady as I poured out a passage on forgiveness's sharp edges. The crowd hushed, rapt. Applause thundered as I stepped down. Rita hugging me fierce. Proud of you, kid. Then I saw him, leaning against a shelf in the back, sharp in a linen shirt, eyes locked on mine like anchors. He approached during the signing, cue parting like the Red Sea. You were brilliant, he said, sliding a copy forward. For the man who broke my heart and helped mend it. I signed it to echoes, hand shaking, then met his gaze. Why come? Because I love you, and because I owe you the truth. All of it. He leaned in, voice low. Meet me after? The bridge. Where it started. The Brooklyn Bridge at midnight, our first real kiss under stars and steel. I went, heart a war drum, the river below churning secrets. He waited midway, wind tousling his hair, vulnerability etched in every line. I lied. He started, no preamble. About the birthday. It wasn't atonement. It was longing. I've carried you since high school. Not hate, but this ache. You were the light I bullied to hide my own darkness. Coming out, moving here. It was all chasing that what if. Tears pricked my eyes, the city lights blurring. And Marcus. A chapter closed. You're the book. He stepped closer, hand outstretched. Forgive me? Not the boy I was, but the man trying to be better with you. I took his hand, pulling him in, our kiss a storm, salt and surrender, the bridge swaying beneath us. Yes, I breathed against his lips, but no more ghosts. Summer waned and we rebuilt, therapy twice weekly, boundaries drawn like battle lines. My book climbed charts, his job stabilized, and in the quiet moments, love felt earned, not given. Autumn leaves carpeted Central Park in fiery hues as October deepened, turning the city into a canvas of change. Much like the one Liam and I were painting on the remnants of our trust. The bridge kiss had been a reset button, but rewiring took work. Date nights enforced by calendar alerts, where we'd leave phones in the foyer like contraband. Weekend getaways to Fire Island, sand in our toes and no signal to some inspectors. This is us now, he'd say, lacing fingers with mine during beach walks, Gus bounding ahead like a furry chaperone. No footnotes. My novel's success snowballed, podcasts invites, a glowing review in The Atlantic calling it a queer odyssey of the soul, and with it came the spotlight's glare. A profile in Out magazine loomed, the reporter a sly fox named Theo who'd grilled me on inspirations. That redemption arc, he'd probed over Zoom, feels personal. Spill. I deflected with laughs, but the truth simmered. Liam was woven into every page, his flaws the ink, my forgiveness the spine. Liam took it in stride, even posing for a candid shot during our park strolls, his arm around me as the photographer clicked away. Proud of you, he'd whisper post-shoot, stealing a kiss that tasted of apple cider and possibility, but pride masked undercurrents. His job pressures mounted, a promotion dangling like bait, demanding 80-hour weeks that left him hollowed out, snapping at Gus over spilled kibble or zoning out mid-dinner, fork hovering forgotten. The first real crack post-reckoning came mid-November, Thanksgiving looming like a family obligation neither of us wanted. My folks had thought enough for a video call. Mom's awkward, so, still with that boy? Over pumpkin pie pixels, but Liam's side was a void, his father's disownment a fresh wound salted by Marcus's death. Let's make our own tradition, I suggested, booking a cabin upstate. Not the Catskills ghost, but a cozy A-frame in the Adirondacks, complete with hot tub and no Wi-Fi. The drive was a bomb, foliage blazing crimson and gold. Springsteen on low as we sang off-key to Thunder Road. Arrival brought wood smoke and relief. We chopped firewood, me clumsily, him with practiced swings, roasted marshmallows over a pit fire, and made love on a bearskin rug, the flames dancing shadows on our skin. Grateful for this, for you, he murmured, tracing my collarbone like a map to home. But the idol shattered on Black Friday, my phone pinging with an email from Theo. Follow-up questions. Sources say Hargrove's got a skeleton's closet, old scandals from Ohio. Care to comment? Attached. Grainy scans of high school newspaper clippings, headlines screaming jock assault. Local teen hospitalized after prom brawl. My name redacted, but the details damning. Fists, slurs. A lawsuit dropped for lack of evidence. Heart in my throat. I showed Liam over coffee the next morning. The cabin's quiet amplifying the horror. This? In the profile? He scanned it, color draining like ink in water. Fuck. I thought it had stayed buried. Buried how? You never told me there was a report. Accusation edged my voice, the old fracture lines glowing. He set the mug down, deliberate. It was. My dad paid off your folks' hush money to avoid scandal. I was a minor. They swept it under. Therapy helped me own it, but I didn't want to drag you back there. Drag me? It's my story too. Fury rose, hot and righteous. You let me think it was just words, not violence that could have ended differently. His eyes pleaded. I was ashamed. Still am. But that kid's not me. Isn't he? The words hung, a guillotine. We drove home in silence, the mountains receding like lost chances. Back in the city, the storm brewed. Theo's piece dropped a week later, a hatchet job disguised as journalism. From bullies to lovers. Can redemption rewrite trauma? It dissected us. My book as therapeutic fanfic. Liam as the villain-hero hybrid. Quotes from anonymous old classmates, dredging slurs I'd buried. Sales spiked, but so did the hate mail. DMs calling me trauma-bonded fool. Trolls photoshopping our faces onto punchlines. Liam withdrew, holing up at work, his promotion slipping through fingers greased by scandal. Boards twitchy, he admitted one night, scotch his companion on the couch. Might cost me everything. And us? I asked, perched on the coffee table, searching his face. He looked up, wrecked. Scared I'll cost you more. The fear festered. December brought flurries and fractures. A fight over Christmas plans. He wanted to face his family. Closure. While I begged for solitude. You're punishing me for the past, he accused, voice cracking during the blowout. No, protecting us from it. I shouted back, storming out to Jake's again, the cycle a cruel loop. Holidays passed in a blur of eggnog and avoidance. Me at a queer-lit potluck, him with Gus and takeout. New Year's Eve found me solo at a Times Square watch party. Confetti raining as resolutions rang hollow. My phone buzzed at midnight. Liam, a voice note raw with tears. Can't do this without you. Meet me? The bridge. I went. The structure a frozen lattice under sodium lights. Wind whipping like furies. He waited, bundled in wool, breath clouding the air. I talked to my dad. He said no hello. Full confession. He hung up, but it's out. No more secrets. And the job. Quit. Starting my own thing, consulting for LGBTQ+ startups. Scary as hell, but honest. I stepped closer. The river's murmur a underscore. Why now? Because losing you would break me worse than any scandal. His hand found mine cold but steady. Fight with me, Daniel. Not against. We kissed as fireworks bloomed over the harbor. A vow sealed in frost and fire. Winter gripped tight, but we thought it. Couples counseling in a village brownstone, where a soft-spoken therapist named Elena unpacked our Pandora's box with gentle probes. Liam dove in, dissecting the bully's blueprint. I confronted the victim's echo, learning to voice hurts without weapons. Spring 2026 bloomed with green shoots. My book tour wrapped in San Francisco, Liam tagging along for the West Coast leg, his pitch deck landing seed funding from a queer venture fund. We moved in together officially. A 2-bedroom in Harlem, high ceilings and hardwood that echoed our laughter. Nights, we'd cook paella, his failed attempts hilarious. Read manuscripts aloud. Make love with the windows open to the jazz of street musicians below. But reckoning's shadow lingered. A letter arrived in May, postmarked Ohio, Liam's mother, tentative olive branch. Heard about the book, proud in my way. Doors open. He showed it to me over breakfast, fork paused mid-bite. Go if you want, I said, no trace of the old fear. I'll be here. He did. A day trip that stretched into dusk, returning with tear-streaked cheeks and a hug that crushed the air from my lungs. She hugged me, said sorry, for everything. Healing rippled outward. I mentored at a youth writing workshop, sharing chapters on bullying's long tail. Liam coached a queer soccer league in Brooklyn, his whistle sharp but kind. Summer hummed with barbecues on our fire escape. Gus sprawled in the heat, friends toasting to second acts. Yet, in quiet moments, I'd catch Liam staring at old photos, high school us, enemies in grainy yearbook gloss. Think we could have been this then? He'd muse, arm around me on the couch. Maybe, I'd reply, kissing his temple. But we got here. That's the story worth telling. As leaves turned again, our first anniversary approached. The birthday that birthed us or reborn. He planned a surprise. Dinner at that Williamsburg cafe. Full circle. Candles flickered as he slid a box across the table. Inside, a leather-bound journal. First page inscribed, "For the dreams we write together. Love, your enemy. No more." Tears pricked as I pulled him close, the room fading to our pulse. "To us," I toasted, voice thick. "To always," he echoed, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of forever. Fall deepened into a golden haze, the kind New York wears like a favorite scarf. Crisp air laced with pretzel vendors and the rustle of scarves against park benches. Our anniversary dinner stretched into the wee hours, the cafe's lights dimming as we lingered over tiramisu and tales of what-ifs. Liam's hand a constant anchor on my knee under the table. 1 year, he marveled, tracing the rim of his espresso cup. From "Still hate me?" to this. Feels like a novel. I laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in months. Ours is better, messier, truer. We walked home hand in hand, Harlem's brownstones glowing under street lamps. Gus greeting us at the door with enthusiastic tail wags and a chewed slipper as trophy. That night, tangled in fresh sheets scented with lavender from the market. Love felt like a verb, active, enduring, the kind that outlasted plot twists. But life, that unrelenting editor, had revisions in store. Winter brought a curveball. My book optioned for a limited series, Netflix swooping in with a deal that meant script meetings in LA and the dizzying prospect of seeing our story. My story, our scars, on screens nationwide. "This is huge," Rita crowed over video, her cigarillo smoke curling like victory flags. Liam celebrated with me, popping champagne in our kitchen, but I caught the flicker in his eyes, pride shadowed by something unnamed. The move to the West Coast was temporary, 6 months tops, but uprooting felt seismic. "I'll commute," he insisted, booking flights like promises. "Or quit again, chase you anywhere." His consulting gig was thriving, advising queer-owned fintechs on ethical scaling, but the distance gnawed, calls crackling with static and unspoken strains. LA was sun-bleached glamour, palm trees swaying against smoggy skies, writers' rooms buzzing with egos and espresso. I thrived, punching up dialogue that echoed our bridge confessions, but nights in a sterile Airbnb, I'd scroll Liam's texts. Gus selfies, miss your laugh, an ache for the solidity of our bed. The first rift came in February, Valentine's redux. I'd flown home for the weekend, surprise unannounced, only to find him absent. Another client dinner scrawled on the fridge calendar. Jake, crashing on our couch post-breakup with his own beau, spilled over late-night tacos. He's been weird, man. Out late, dodging questions. Not saying cheating, but I waited up, the clock mocking with each tick, until 2 a.m. when the door creaked open. Liam, Ty Askew, cologne fresh, too fresh. Froze at the sight of me on the couch, arms crossed. "Daniel, you're early." "Surprise?" I said, flat as the beer going warm in my hand. "Who's the client?" He sighed, shedding his coat like armor. "Evan, again. Closing a round for this non-binary app startup. It's good news, big commission." Evan, the name innocuous specter, reared again. "At a strip club? Smells like bourbon and bad decisions." His laugh was tired, not amused. "Jesus, no. Upscale lounge. You know how these things go. Schmoozing over scotches." He reached for me, but I flinched, the old fracture throbbing. "Do I? Or is this the part where you rewrite history again?" The accusation hung, laced with LA isolation. He recoiled, hurt flashing. "Not this. Not us doubting every shadow." We argued into dawn, voices rising over Gus's anxious whines, him defending transparency, me excavating buried fears. "You're projecting Marcus," he accused, voice cracking. "Or that high school ghost. I'm not them. And you're not listening." I shot back. "I'm here, bearing our soul to Hollywood, while you build walls with every late night." Truce came fragile, sealed with exhausted apologies and a hurried weekend of reconnection. Brunch at our favorite soul food spot. A matinee where we held hands through the dark. I flew back west with his promise. More calls. Less schmoozing. But distance distilled doubts. Calls shortening to check-ins. Texts emoji placeholders for depth. Spring bloomed in California with bougainvillea riots. But my heart wilted. Script revisions dragged. Producers tweaking our trauma porn for broader appeal. And Liam's updates grew sparse. A new client. A league game with the kids. Love you, tacked like afterthoughts. One April night, post-rewrite marathon. I caved to insomnia and called Jake. Check on him? For real. His report chilled. Saw him at that lounge last week. Cozy with Evan, handsy, laughing like old flames. Could be nothing, but watch it. Betrayal bloomed, thorned and inevitable. I booked a red-eye, landing in JFK at dawn. Cab racing to Harlem like a heartbeat. The apartment was quiet. Gus stirring from his bed as I let myself in. Voices murmured from the bedroom, low, intimate. Heart in throat, I pushed the door ajar. Liam, shirtless, laughing with, Evan? No. Evan's twin? Wait. No. Evan himself, perched on the bed's edge, hand on Liam's knee, the air thick with aftershave and accusation. They sprang apart, Evan's face flushing beet red. Daniel! Liam bolted up, scrambling for words. It's not. Evan's pitching an idea, crashed here after drinks. Save it. I whispered, voice ablade. The room spun, years of building crumbling. I trusted you. Again. Evan mumbled excuses, fleeing past me like smoke. Liam followed, grabbing my arm in the hall. Wait. Nothing happened. He's straight, for fuck's sake, always has been. Just venting about his divorce. Liar. I hissed, wrenching free. Or maybe worse. A beard for whatever this is. Tears burned. Hot as the sun I'd left behind. The birthday, the bridge, the always. Was it all a beautiful con? Redeem the bully by betting the victim. No. Anguish twisted his face. I love you. This is paranoia talking. Your fears, my fuck-ups. But the seed, once cracked, poisoned the soil. I left, crashing at Rita's in the valley. Phone off as voicemails flooded. Days blurred into script tweaks. Nights into bars where I'd nurse IPAs and journal rants that bled into plot holes. Liam's texts evolved. Please to silence, then space. Finally a long email. Pages of raw confession. I won't beg, he wrote. But know this. Evan was a mistake. Not physical but emotional. Leaning on him when I should have leaned on you. Distance broke us. But I broke trust first. If there's an us left, it's yours to claim. The journals on the nightstand read it. All of it. I flew home a week later. The apartment a tomb of echoes. Gus's toys scattered. Our photos crooked on walls. The journal lay open. Entries spanning our year. Sketches of my laugh lines. Poems on forgiveness's ache. Confessions of fear that I'd taint you forever. The last page, dated yesterday. If you go, take my heart. It's always been yours. He wasn't there. Note on the counter. At the bridge. If you want. Rain slicked the span as I crossed. Midnight tolling like judgment. He stood midway, drenched and defiant. Eyes locking on mine across the gulf. I read it, I said, stopping short. Felt it. And vulnerable. Terrifying. Rain mingled with tears. But real. Like us. He closed the distance, hands framing my face. Then stay. We'll rebuild braver, boundaries ironclad. No more echoes. I nodded, pulling him into the deluge. Our kiss a covenant. Salt stung, soul deep. Together, I vowed. The months that followed were alchemy. Therapy intensified. Evan excised from orbits. My series greenlit with authenticity clauses I'd fought for. We relocated to LA part-time. A beach bungalow in Venice where waves lulled us to sleep. Liam's startup booming with apps for queer mental health. Fall returned east for Book 2's launch. Our story evolved. Now a trilogy of grace. One November Eve. Back on the Brooklyn Bridge for no reason but ritual, Liam dropped to one knee, ring glinting like a captured star. Marry me? Not to fix the past, but to write the future. Yes, I breathed, hauling him up for a kiss that spanned horizons. Years spun forward. Vows in a Harlem courthouse, Gus as ring-bearer in a bow tie. Kids via surrogacy, 2 boys with his eyes and my mischief. My series Emmy-nominated, his TED Talk on redemption viral. Old enemies faded to footnotes, our love the bold print. Yet in dreams, that first kiss lingers, birthday spark to eternal flame. Liam remembers every anniversary with a text, still dreaming of you. And I reply, always, hate you? Never. Love you. Forever. In the end, enemies don't stay buried. They transform. Ours became the heart of us, beating, unbroken, profoundly human.